Now, for more on Nvidia's earnings and what this all means, we're joined by Scott Schober. He's president and CEO of Berkeley Varitronics Systems. Scott, good to see you again.
Yeah, great to be back with you.
Okay, surely, still one of the most remarkable years from a large company ever, exponential growth, and a lot of investors had been worried ahead of the aftermarket news. But the news was really good from Nvidia. What's your big takeaway?
Yeah, definitely good news, I think. And I think we have to all refocus and stand back from it. There was a little setback perhaps with DeepSeek and some of the stuff that the lower cost stuff China was doing, which is very impressive. And Nvidia even admitted that. However, you got to look at the pipeline, and they're really dominant, Nvidia, in the data center. That's where they're dominant. And their four biggest customers are really Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon, which accounts for $40+ billion of revenue just in this first quarter. That's where the money is. And I think the other parts of their business where it's slacked off in the gaming or this or that, that's okay. They got to look at the core. They've got orders in the pipeline. They're continuing to grow at rapid expansion. The Blackwell AI architecture is incredible. It offers a lot of things, and I think that's what really people should focus on. Long-term growth over the next year or two, I think they're doing tremendous, and they should be proud.
Okay, good stuff. Now, the Chinese AI model that we have been talking about, DeepSeek, R1, it did disrupt the status quo, questioning assumptions that more NVIDIA chips would be needed to build smarter AI. So what happened? Did DeepSeek have any impact on NVIDIA after all the excitement, all the brouhaha around DeepSeek? Or is it, one of these things that it could do everything in a much more cost-effective fashion? Because that's what a lot of people were thinking. This is the future. DeepSeek could do it cheaper. They're significantly cheaper.
Yeah, I think there is a future for DeepSeek, and I think there's actually a lot of room for a lot of players because this market size is much larger than most people ever anticipated. And that, to me, is the exciting part. And anytime you have multiple companies developing chipsets in this exploding AI area, it's like nothing we've ever seen before. So there's a lot more room for growth for DeepSeek, for NVIDIA, and probably a handful of other companies as well. And there's a lot more business. So to me, the sky's the limit, and it's very exciting. And I think people have to look that way. They can't look just here and now at a particular stock price. They have to look at what's happening. This is a revolution with the explosion in these data centers and ChatGPT and all these other amazing things that artificial intelligence is introducing. That's the future, but it's here now.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I remember just a few months ago we were wondering who could be a competition for NVIDIA, but I guess we found out pretty quickly. So let's talk more about the Blackwell chip. The rollout going amid some reports of distribution of its version of NVIDIA's latest AI chips may be happening slower than had been previously expected, but certainly you don't see that in today's numbers.
No, you don't at all. And I think there were some nice surprises there with a lot of growth prospects. They did great in the fourth quarter for year 2025. Exciting things ahead. I think you have to also look at the advances in the Blackwell chip and what it offers. They're lowering the cost per watt. And I think that's important because the energy consumption that's going to be needed in these large data centers well exceeds $1 trillion. And I don't think enough people put emphasis on how much energy is needed to run all of these AI engines that are coming up in the not too distant future. So it's important to keep controls and keep the cost of energy down, keep it cool so it has a lot of performance. And that's what they're really focusing on. They're trying to compete in a sense with themselves. Now the only exception is maybe DeepSeek, so it's good. More competition will force them to make it more efficient, run cooler, more processing gain. It's exciting times ahead.
Now, is the news from NVIDIA powerful enough to drag a number of other high-flying tech stocks with it?
Yeah, I think so. Why? Because think about it. Just look at market capitalization. I mean, aside from NVIDIA, who were really the powerhouse kings? It's Apple. But right behind NVIDIA is Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta. So if you just look at the top 5 companies with market capitalization above $1 trillion, those are customers for NVIDIA. So they're racing to the market. And right now, NVIDIA is the only game in town. So they're pouring a ton of money into those chips, the Blackwell chips. And that's going to continue to grow as we look throughout the year. So I think that's really important to see where we are now, but where it's going. They don't have a choice right now to go somewhere else. Now, as DeepSeek and others come to market, there'll be other choices, but that may be down the road, later in the year or next year. So they're getting the lion's share of it right now. So Nvidia needs to deliver as fast as they can and fulfill those orders.
Donald Trump today saying that he wants China to come here and do business, and he wants people in the U.S. to go to China and do business. But talk about the possibility that scrutiny on DeepSeek could prompt the U.S. to further restrict Nvidia's exports of AI chips to China on national security concerns.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope, and I think a little bit more remains to be seen and some details on that, because the export of it could potentially cause a problem. I don't see it as an immediate problem, but potentially it could, and the U.S. government tends to be overly protective, especially with IP and national security and some of the challenges that China and the U.S. have been going back and forth on. But these tariff wars, I would have assumed it would have taken a bigger hit on the stock market. Surprisingly, it hasn't, especially for Nvidia. It actually came out pretty positive today with positive trading. That's a little bit surprising, but that's good. That shows you how powerful investors are when they look at the company and they say, hey, I'm putting more money on the table here because I really see this thing is going to keep going up.